Lewis Hamilton spoke for many in the Formula One paddock when he described Red Bull's 2023 Challenger as the fastest car he's ever seen in his career. And it's easy to see why. The RB19 appears unrivaled at virtually every stage of a Grand Prix, displaying blitzing pace in both slow corners and straight lines. Add to that a very strong driver lineup in Sergio Perez and Max Verstappen, and the question quickly becomes whether anyone else can challenge for a win this season, let alone the championship. However, it's not that simple, and there are some very specific reasons why the Red Bulls are so incredibly fast this season. So buckle up and join us as we look at what makes the Red Bull package so dominant, and make sure to watch until the end to learn about a very interesting trick that makes the RB19 so strong. Genius designer. Now, 8 years ago, Adrian Newey was on the point of leaving F1, having previously played a major part in Red Bull's transformation from a novelty fringe team to a multiple title-winning colossus. This, combined with the fact that he'd already overseen the development of dominant cars for McLaren and Williams in the 1990s, meant he'd be leaving with one of the most impressive CVs of any technical director in the sport's history. But he's still here, contributing to Red Bull's second era of world title domination. Newey designs fine details in addition to aerodynamics. However, broad brush concepts are where his creativity shines, especially under new regulations. He can help lead and direct that powerful group of engineers in magically fruitful directions when he has a big picture vision, and it was his brilliance combined with his decades of experience that drove the success of the 2022 car. That year, most teams' limiting factor had been porpoising, but not Red Bull, and Newey was instrumental in getting that detail correct. His unrivaled experience and decades of continued success have ensured him a legendary status in the paddock. In 2022, Lewis Hamilton specifically cited Newey's experience with ground effect cars, which was the subject of his thesis, as the factor that propelled Red Bull to the front. "It's more that I'm impressed with Adrian Newey and his team," Hamilton said. "I think it's a great team. They've generally had really great cars for some time. I think years ago I said something about them being a drinks company, and I was just really highlighting that you could bet more on a car company, but they've proved me wrong and everyone else. But also knowing that Adrian did his thesis on ground effect cars when he was at university, it's no surprise what he's done and created this year." Verstappen may get the spotlight on race day, but there is no one more important to Red Bull's long-term success than Newey. Rear wing and DRS tricks. The way Verstappen blasted past Lewis Hamilton's Mercedes in both the Saudi Arabian and Australian Grand Prix gave the impression that the RB19 was in a different league. However, unlike the dominant turbo hybrid era Mercedes, Red Bull's insane straight-line speed advantage is due to good old aerodynamics rather than the engine. To understand this, we must take a look at a component known as the beam wing. The beam wing functions as a smaller rear wing beneath the main rear wing. The beam wing stands slightly upright and directs air passing over an F1 car upwards. The practical benefit is for the driver behind, who can now follow more closely and suffer less from disturbed air. The downside is that the beam wing generates drag and thus reduces straight line speed, so the teams must strike a balance between the downforce benefits and drag drawback. However, because the RB19 already has such massive downforce gains thanks to their overall package, the team has more leeway with the rear wing. In the case of the beam wing, Red Bull created a more aggressive upright wing than the competition. Because of this more upright wing, the beam wing interacts with the diffuser and the upper wing. When the upper wing opens during DRS and the wind turns past the car, the beam wing stalls. The stall causes the wing to rapidly lose its ability to generate downforce, resulting in less drag and thus much higher straight line speeds. Again, Red Bull is only able to do so because their overall package is so good that it compensates for the drastic drop in downforce. So let's look at some other elements that help facilitate that. Innovative brake system. Brake systems are the one area that is constantly evolving as teams strive to reduce weight, improve heat dissipation, and improve the car's overall stopping performance. Throughout the 2022 season, Red Bull made extensive changes to its brakes, and for 2023, they've settled on a design that's been lauded by some as a combination of some very clever solutions. We've actually made an entire video about it, so if you want to see a more in-depth explanation, the link will be in the description. Regardless, here's the lowdown. The most important work was carried out on the caliper, developed together with Brembo. The Bergamo firm provides calipers to all teams and is capable of developing customized solutions. Together, they were able to create a caliper that is not only lighter, but also much faster at cooling and heating. Red Bull have also created a fairing that encloses the brake disc. The fairing serves to bridge the space between the disc and the rim, as well as to keep the brakes within a certain temperature window to improve their performance. All of these innovations give Red Bull drivers the confidence they need in heavy braking zones, and with the increased straight line speeds compared to their competitors, it becomes an even more important area to focus on. Suspension systems. As rivals try to figure out what Red Bull did to create such a dominant car as its 2023 challenger, there's been an increased focus on the gains coming from it having such a stable platform. While the car produces good levels of downforce with excellent efficiency and a potent DRS, one aspect that should not be overlooked is how the car maintains its ride in corners. There's a growing belief that Red Bull's ability to run closer to the ground than competitors for maximum downforce is due to clever mechanical aspects of the car and its suspension systems. In addition to the performance benefits of this characteristic, the consistency throughout the lap increases driver confidence in how the car will behave under braking, cornering, and acceleration. The emphasis on which clever ideas Red Bull has implemented for its suspension is intriguing, because it's an area where it was widely assumed that there was a level playing field. Suspension systems were simplified as part of the 2022 rule overhaul, so teams had fewer tools at their disposal to get things set up the way they wanted. It's striking how the RB19 has not shown the slightest variation in dynamic behavior with the tank full or empty. In essence, it's mechanically capable of maintaining a constant setup that is unaffected by weight variations. The front suspension retains the same pull rod layout as in 2022, with the upper wishbone arms slanted. This feature has the function of increasing the anti-dive effect or anti-sinking of the front end. In this way, by better controlling the variations in height from the ground at the front, traction at the rear can be effectively managed. As a result, the car doesn't lose grip when changing directions quickly or when braking at the end of straights. We can also see that they've improved the anti-squat in the rear suspension by mounting the rearmost top wishbone link even higher than before to a structure above the gearbox to which it was previously attached. Anti-squat at the rear is used to combat the car's natural tendency to squat tail down under acceleration. It's as if the RB19 were outfitted with active suspensions similar to those created and developed by Adrian Newey himself exactly 30 years ago at Williams. There are undoubtedly drawbacks though. Anti-dive makes it easier to lock the front brakes and takes away the driver's feel for the braking pedal. The anti-squat will reduce traction, so why would a team want to increase these? Almost certainly because of the benefits it brings to the car's aerodynamic platform and the way the underfloor performs at various angles. The drivers. At the best of times, the debate over who is the greatest F1 driver on the grid is highly divisive, but especially after Lewis Hamilton's uncharacteristically sloppy campaign last year. The answer would probably be Max Verstappen, winner of 26 of the last 46 races, dating back to the start of his maiden title-winning season in 2021. That championship was won under horrific circumstances, but it had been a foregone conclusion since the day he first drove an F1 car as a 16-year-old in 2014. There's no doubt that Max is one of the most gifted natural talents to ever grace the F1 paddock, and he continues to mature and blossom by the Grand Prix, having mostly eliminated the moments of impulsivity that occasionally jeopardized his earlier career. By far his most arresting attribute, however, is his resilience, an apparent immunity to pressure that characterized his season-long struggle against Hamilton 2 years ago. In an era when elite athletes are encouraged to be open about their doubts and shortcomings, it's easy to believe that Verstappen would refuse to admit a flaw even if it was staring him in the face. But for the rest of his F1 career, he'll never have a teammate as good as Sergio Perez, who strikes the perfect balance between being fast enough to support Verstappen while never posing a sustained threat. Yes, Perez can be frustrating and uninspiring at times, such as when he qualifies several tenths off pole, struggles as Verstappen charges to victory, or goes quiet for a few months after a big win. However, there are times when the Mexican is able to push Verstappen to be better while avoiding unnecessary drama. Some may argue that the scenes at Jeddah this season, or last year's Brazilian Grand Prix drama, show that that kind of relationship is over, but look no further than Mercedes in 2016 to see how bad it can get, and it's easy to see that the current Red Bull dynamic is pretty healthy. The best pit crew. Nothing makes an F1 team look more dysfunctional than a botched pit stop. Red Bull has its moments, of course, as Verstappen let them know after a costly one in Austin last year, but they're extremely rare. The Red Bull pit crew has broken the record for the fastest ever pit stop on multiple occasions over the years, raising the bar even higher despite changes to wheel and tyre profiles as well as rule-enforced pit procedures. And daring strategy calls become a lot easier to make when the pit crew is completely confident in their ability to execute them. So what are your thoughts? Is Adrian Newey the best designer in Formula 1 at the moment? Will Sergio Perez be able to put up a bigger fight this season? And which of the design elements that make the RB19 so fast do you believe has given them the most advantage? Give us your opinions in the comments section down below.